Again, my name is Eric Lindman. I'm the Director of Public Works and Utilities for the city. Today we're going to be talking about a potential solar array for the new drinking water treatment facility at 1010 Bugbee Avenue. Again, none of this has been approved. These are concepts that we're looking at right now and trying to determine some numbers. Clark Dietz is our partner with this. Tanya Westfall and Lisa Zart are here to help answer questions. This is a brief history of kind of where we started and where we've come. The area in green on the map to the left is actually the property that the utility owns currently. At the bottom of the map, south of that pink line is in the city limits. So the DWTF, the Drinking Water Treatment Facility, is located on that site. And the area that we're talking about is this right here where it says solar. It was just less than 8 acres of property that the utility recently purchased. This entire property was purchased for to help with wellhead delineation and protection of the wellhead for the city of Wausau in the future. A lot of our wells are up on the northwest side of the city. The proposed solar array, I won't go through each one of these, you can all read this. So obviously 3 million kilowatt hours. The way it's set up right now, at least preliminary, is 1.775. 1,775,000 kilowatt hours would be produced. So a little over 50%. Not all of it would be used by the treatment facility. And the main reason is just because of the load profile of the treatment facility and how it uses power. It uses peak power at certain times when there's high demands. So not only is this being looked at to help offset the power cost for the ratepayers, but we're also looking at the new automation in the plant, and can we set that up to save energy at the time possibly solar is generating peak power. So those are all considerations that are taking place right now. Estimated opinion cost right now about $2 million. And we are exploring a partnership with WPS at this point in time. We have also looked in the past, over the past 3 years, on partnerships with third parties. They did not seem to pencil out when it came down to the economics. So, so we're open to still looking at ideas, but right now we're mainly looking at a program with WPS and to see if that would be viable. That's really a program where WPS will come in, they will build it, operate it, maintain it, and then the city will have, so there would be no capital cost for the city, and then the city would have to purchase power out of the Nature-Wise program, but it does come with a premium cost. And so, so you pay more than you normally would just coming off the grid. When we look at different things that might be coming down in the future is carbon tax, things like that, to push people to alternative energy. That's what we're trying to get ahead of and starting alternative energy within the city. So a lot of you have seen this on the board. This is a tentative layout to try to maximize the site for solar arrays. On the big board, you'll see the setbacks in blue there. There is one of the accesses is coming off of the east of Tierney. The other one is coming off of the treatment facility site. Those are just a couple of options. Hear a lot about aesthetics. That's a lot what I've heard. Up in the upper left, obviously, we have the chain link fence. Not necessarily attractive. I think everybody would agree with that. There's other options: aluminum fences, wrought iron fences, other things that the site will need to be secured. So there are other options for that. There's berming, there's landscaping, and other things also that can be put in place. These are just just a couple of options. On the billboard in the middle there, you'll also see like the pollinator habitat that some people are putting in. Some other environmentally friendly parks, to utilize that property. Lighting, landscaping, buffer. These are all just ideas at this point. for comment. That's really all I have for a presentation at this point in time. I mean, really, I think the main reason that we're here is really to get public feedback from all of you. I think a lot of you are from the area, from the neighborhood that this is going in. There's a drinking water treatment facility already under construction. It's about 60% along right now. And so all this information, again, will come back to the commission. We will be having another meeting like this in 4 to 6 weeks. And hopefully others can make it that weren't able to make it tonight. So, are there any questions, comments, anything like that? Yes, sir.
I have a question. We're building a new water treatment plant off of Burek, right?
That's correct.
And the cost was projected to be passed along for your water and sewer bill,
That's
correct?
correct.
How are you going to propose on powering that if this one never came up? I mean, shouldn't that have been thought of in the planning stage? That we will power this by solar array, but it would have been in the bill, in the proposal right away. Now all of a sudden, it seems like it's ganging up on us. It's building momentum, and you know, Wausau is not a young community. And there's a lot of people in Wausau who are on fixed income, who really can't afford that.
Right.
That's my 2 cents worth. I hope those considerations are thought about and kicked around and come to a realization that these solar panels, are they really absolutely necessary? So, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for the comment. Yes.
Thank you. Dan Sigelski. I'm wondering about the economics of the current plant. How much electricity are you using now versus what the new plant will use? And how much more, you said you're going to get a premium for the electricity this thing generates. How much more?
If we go with the NatureWise program, there is a premium, which is one of the things that we're trying to figure out if it's feasible to go with the NatureWise program and have them build it. So we don't know all of those costs yet. On the current plant, I think our average usage on an annual basis is 1.8.
Yes.
Yeah.
1.8 what?
1,800,000 kilowatt hours. And that is on an average usage. The 3 million kilowatt hours for the new plant would be basically at capacity.
Correct.
Yeah,
And that's projection.
Yeah, that's projected.
And that capacity is much larger than the current plant.
Well, the current plant, we've never been near capacity. So I'm only going by with the 1,800,000 kilowatt hours. That's our average. You know, our plant has a lot more capacity to treat water. But currently the city of Wausau doesn't need it. So, but our projected load up here is 3 million kilowatt hours annually. But that is if we are maximizing water generation.
Well, that just opens up a whole bunch of other questions. How much extra capacity are we building that we don't currently need?
We're not building any additional capacity. Our current facility is, what it's sized for is what the new facility is sized for. So the new facility is, we're not building it bigger. We're not building it to generate more water, treated water. We're building it to improve the treatment of the water and also to meet DNR requirements. Right now, we are not groundwater under the influence rule. We are not under it, but we will be within the next couple of years.
Okay, then the opposite question is, are we sure we're building big enough?
Yes, we projected out for 50 plus years.
Okay.
And so yes, that's why we didn't increase the capacity.
So, for forgive me for not being familiar with the nature-wise plan, but that basically means that they build it and we pay for it through increased rates.
That's basically what it looks like right now.
And,
Well, I mean, well, we're looking at that right now. If we went with the Nature-Wise program with their premium costs, right? Yeah, we don't have the upfront cost of solar, but is that going to generate savings for the ratepayers? Right now, it doesn't look like it, but we're making a lot of assumptions we're trying to clear up right now. So,
any idea what this would cost if the city of Wausau just decided to build it themselves?
$2 million. And we're estimating right now $50,000 to $60,000 in savings on electrical costs. But again, that's making some assumptions as well.
And this cost would be passed along to the consumer.
It would, if we borrowed this money, yes, it would all be, everything that the utility does affects the users, yes.
What's the payback, how many years?
Hasn't really been defined yet, again, with the assumptions. Right now, it's over 20 years. I think we were looking at maybe
So why would you team up with public service? They're running a high line right across, right on Zurich all the way up.
right. I mean that is another viable option that you know, we just don't do anything. If there's not a benefit at this point to the ratepayers, maybe it doesn't happen right.
I mean, we don't have nothing to say about that when they put a high line on Zurich.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, they did,
Mhm.
so you might as well tap in on it.
Well, the power from the grid we have, I mean, that's all. So, I mean, the plant will run without this. The idea here is long-term, how do we offset our power costs?
They don't have no indication how many years it would take to get.
Right now, it looks, with the assumptions we have, about 22 to 24 years payback.
We live on Tierney Road, and we were told originally with the plan going in that there would be no access off of Tierney Road, so we wouldn't see increased traffic or anything. Well, now there is a gravel access right at the top of our driveway.
Sure.
So I look out my kitchen window up the driveway, I'm gonna see gravel access, and that's supposed to be decorative fence, but it would have to be a gate or something, so there wouldn't be any landscaping there. I mean, wouldn't it be better if the gravel access was at the end of the road?
Across from the well?
Instead of across from my driveway in my yard?
I think at this point, it could be, I mean, we could readjust this, you know, that was just a option at this point, you know, to come off of Tierney for one of the access. Again, there's an access off the west side as well, coming off of the treatment facility site as well. So, appreciate that. Yeah,
I have a question about the aesthetics along Bugbee.
yeah,
From looking at this now, am I correct in saying that those trees that are along Bugbee between, is it Becker and Tierney are coming, they'll be coming down?
the majority of these, yeah, would come
They
down
will be
in this
coming down.
configuration.
And then with the, there will be landscaping, whatever you decide on will be on that area as well.
Yeah, considerations for landscaping would be here on the south side of the site along Bugbee. Those are some of the things that have been brought to the commission to landscape
Then why
plan.
not Tierney also? Why not?
It absolutely could. I didn't mean to exclude Tierney.
You're looking at 3 blocks of straight fence,
Yep.
make it as decorative as you want, but you got 3 blocks of straight fence.
Mhm. Yep. Yes.
I live at Bugbee also, and I'm not here to disrupt the thing about the finances, because that's not what I'm talking about. And I had a stroke about 6 months ago, so that's why I can't talk. I didn't have too many old fashions. Anyway, my point here is Wausau, in my opinion, I took a lot of pictures, is not a good neighbor to have in your neighborhood. Now, we are happy to swallow the pill to have the water plant because it's got to go somewhere. But I think this solar powered thing and cutting down trees, for instance, is where the show stops. Because that's just a philosophical idea that they have to put up a solar panel or a solar powered thing. It doesn't even power the whole plant. So why don't you buy some land in Brokaw and put up a whole Wausau, solar powered field or something? Don't put it right in the most beautiful part of the whole doggone, in my opinion, city. We have trees like somebody made reference to all up and down that thing. It is wonderful. The road has been crap. It's been that way for the last 12 years. But anyway, this is a joke, I think, when it comes to sticking this down. It'd be one thing if it was, 1,000% justifiable because of whatever. You can't really come up with one good reason other than that we have this land. We can put this up, it'll be an eyesore, it'll wreck the neighborhood, in my opinion. And it doesn't even pay for itself. It doesn't power the plant, but we got a solar power thing, and we can have some goats running around eating the weeds. So I don't like that whole program. I'm not against progress, but this is a disaster for that particular neighborhood. We're okay with the plan's got to be there. Somebody has to have it somewhere. But this is a little bit over the top. And when I took pictures of all the Wausau buildings that I could find on my cell phone, you guys make really bad neighbors. Because there's nothing aesthetic anywhere when you look at your buildings off campus. And so, and you can look at now, your stuff that you have over there, nobody's paying attention to making things look good. There's crap here, buildings that are in disrepair and this and that. And it's just not to be taken personally, but this is not the way to do it. I'm not into wrecking the neighborhood for something philosophical, but it broke or something. Does that make sense?
It does, yep. Appreciate the feedback. Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you said that as the way it stands right now, the power grid would power the water treatment plant?
Yep.
What do we need to look at?
We were told not completely though, right?
What's that?
We were told not completely though. In other words, they couldn't run off that thing that provided only half the power for the plant.
The power grid, like, if we didn't build this, we could run the plant, like with what WPS generates and everything, right? So the idea behind this would be to help offset those costs and reduce our electrical costs on an annual basis. So that's what we're still looking at. Is it viable, and are we going to have the savings to the ratepayers over the next 20 to 30 years if we build this now? Yes, sir.
Did you say something earlier that the northern end of the property is unstable? And so that's not a good alternative to keep this whole array further away from the residential areas?
Yeah, well, we ended up putting a stormwater pond and stuff up here, which we had to do. Soils are not great up there. We also looked at even going further north, and topography became a challenge as well.
I think it's more unsuitable than unstable.
No.
Well, there's a whole lot less street to cut down, and we won't have to look at it every day.
Yeah, so the area to the north where it's like some dark areas, there's some ponds there. And in between all of that, there's some buried construction waste. So large pieces of concrete and some metal. So the nature of construction for a solar array is to drive in piles. So that would all have to be over excavated, if possible, investigated, refilled again. So it's deemed an unsuitable site.
So I hadn't lived there for as long as we know the spot you talk about, the solar panels, is all filled now.
That's what the fill would be, is where the solar plant, sorry, he's right.
Yeah, so 7 test pit excavations were done on there, and there's a little bit of unsuitable fill. Most of it came back as suitable fill. So fill is not a barrier to construction, but unsuitable fill is.
I think that's somebody's abstract opinion, because that whole, there's more rocks and more stable than the whole hill over there is all rock. So everybody heard it was your pond, but it's as solid as a rock. And where he's talking about that whole area was filled.
I agree.
It's all gravel, so, if it's a matter of saving, 300 trees and putting it someplace that is gonna be an eyesore and it's on ground that's not really usable anyway, what a great victory for the city of Wausau. Rather than wrecking our neighborhood.
What does it cost per month to run a full treatment plant? Electricity wise?
Did you say the old plant or the whole plant?
The old plant across the river, what electricity does it take to run it? How much? Do we pay public service?
I don't know.
Because you must get a break on.
What's that?
Another big corporation of electricity.
Will you say that again?
You must get a break because you use so much electricity. Public service gives you a discount. You know, you don't pay what the residential people pay per rate.
We do, we definitely have a different meter rate,
Right.
okay? But we definitely do pay during peak times on energy. It goes up quite a bit. So, and that's where like our load profile and stuff, that's where when we're looking at these costs, and Clark Dietz is looking at these costs, you know, where are our peak loads and you know, does it match up with where the solar's generating power, you know? And then can we make that work?
Now, is that rezoned, all that whole area for, is that all rezoned for commercial?
No, nothing's been rezoned yet. No. The underlying zoning here is still, I believe it's a form of residential. Yep.
So have you counted how many trees that could be whacked off? Do you know if the number is 200, 400?
I haven't counted.
It's a mess. It's very
Right, I mean, when you look at the drawings, you can see probably 3/4 of them will go.
See, that can't happen, it's so pretty. I don't know how a city could justify whacking down all those trees when you have other options.
Yes.
Earlier in the presentation, you were talking about the amount of energy used by the current facility. You said that wasn't at peak capacity, right?
That's correct.
So, and then you gave the 3 million for the new one, but that was at peak.
Right.
So what is the old one, like, percentage of
We're about
capacity?
60%.
So
Yeah.
60% of that 3 million capacity would
Yeah.
be, and then how much does that solar array generate? So rather than, I guess what I'm trying to find out is if you're saying the solar array will generate 1.4, I don't remember the number from your slide.
Yeah.
And if the new facility is going to run at 60% rather than that 3 million figure that you gave, how much closer does that bring those two numbers?
Yeah, it definitely brings them a lot closer. I think, like, again, the challenge is the load profile, you know? So, like, if we're generating peak power during the day, but we're not using all of that, we'll sell that back to WPS if we own the facility. Currently, the tariffs with WPS is about 2.74 cents, so it's pretty low, unfortunately. So I think, again, you know, those are some of the challenges, trying to figure out if this is actually going to be viable. And
That
work.
just seems like it makes it, if you're not running at the full capacity, which we wouldn't be, it brings those numbers closer, which makes it economically a little more viable.
Yeah, it does make it look a lot better, yeah.
And I think one of the things that I think about is when this was constructed, or when that was in planning stage, we kept hearing, you know, well, we're planning for 50 years out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if these solar panels will pay back in 20 years, and this is going to last 50 years, if you're looking at the long-term future, well, maybe that starts to make more sense too. And if it's good for the environment, that's a factor that hasn't been addressed at all.
Yeah.
Understanding trees would be cut down, which I fully,
Environment?
I don't want trees
Just
cut
like
down
when you
either.
look at the environment right now. What do you know that lasted 50 years out there? Nothing, especially electrical. So that probably is for 50 years, but holy cats, I don't know of anything that's lasted 50 years. So that life expectancy might end up being a whole lot less.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, I'm just kind of brainstorming.
Yeah, I'm just trying to protect the trees.
I can understand.
Yeah.
I appreciate you're looking into it, and I think you've got good questions that you're seeking answers for.
On a lighter note, living not as close to Bugbee or whatever, but we walk down there a lot because of the trees. The tech does not like people using it as a dog park. I know the city works on them. You could incorporate a nature area with paths and more trees planted. People would like that.
Very good feedback. Ideas?
How old is the current plant?
61, I think, was the original. Or
1961?
I believe so, yes.
60 years old.
Yeah.
The types of panels or solar situation that you're looking at, how tall a profile do they have? Are they 6 feet off the ground, are they 10 feet off the ground? I mean, how visible would they be from looking?
You can kind of see them in the pictures up there at the ground levels. They're
Like 12 to 14 is probably the extent of it.
12 to 14 feet off the ground?
Yeah, on the high side, they all
Okay.
take themselves.
and this would be what we've investigated would be a tracking system, so it would actually move with the sun.
If WPS needs power, why don't they build this themselves somewhere?
They're actually building a lot of these in other areas. That's where they came up with this NatureWise program. I mean, right now, we could purchase the NatureWise program, but obviously to pay additional for power doesn't make sense, you know, so, so I think that what we're looking at is something like in the long term. We anticipate the solar arrays would be a 30-year lifespan. The panels at that point may have to be replaced. Inverters at some point might have to be, you know, there'll be some maintenance on those facilities. But, you know, like what WPS has relayed to us anyway, and I'll relay this back to you, I don't really want to speak for them, but they have said that with the NatureWise program that they anticipate those premiums going down over time. But, you know, as they get rid of their coal-fired plants, as they do more wind and more solar, and, you know, this is how they're going to power the majority of their grid. And so we're, the one thing that we don't want to get into, which WPS has talked about, their next rate case will be for 2023. They're talking about a carbon tax. They're talking about different things coming up in the future too. So we're looking at ways to diversify on what we have to use anyway. So this is just one of the options that we're looking at. Yes, ma'am.
What happens in winter when there's less light and everything else and the light gets snowed under?
Yeah, they do generate less, but, you know, the calculations, and Lisa can talk to it a little bit, but they're, you know, at different parallels throughout the city, they have different calculations that they do. You know, obviously, if we were in the southwest of the desert, this would probably be a no-brainer, but, you know, but we are, we're north central, so, yep.
There's a lot less light in winter.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that, and because there isn't sun for half of our day.
Sorry, we can't,
Sorry. So because of the less sunshine in the winter, less pronounced, for lack of a better term, sun in the winter, and having nighttime, that's the reason that no matter what size you put for this array, that it cannot power that entire plant. So the plant still runs all night long, but the solar array doesn't. So it only can be used to offset the electricity at the plant because there's no storage. Storage technology it's happening, but it's really expensive right now. So it's not affordable to put a gigantic battery yet on site. It may be down the road, but so right now, again, it's impossible to build an array that would power this whole plant with today's technology.
Yeah.
But that brings the question, so 5 years from now, will the technology that's solar-based be that much better if we kick the can down the road for 5 years, left the trees, built the solar array with 5-year technology, maybe maybe it would have a battery option, but we've spent our money on the old technology, so we have the VHS tape instead of Netflix.
Well, that's a good question. The solar panel technology has advanced quite a lot in the last 2 decades. So much so that the cost of a panel itself has come down up to 85% in some areas. So the prediction by the people who know these things, who are experts outside of what we do as engineers, are that panel technology is not going to significantly improve over the next even couple decades. So even if you were to change out some panels that were broken, you're not going to get a much higher production on new panels as you would for what's there today. As far as battery technology, doing a project like this doesn't negate your ability to put storage in later, if you choose to do that.
What if you, city of Wausau had some long-term plan to put up a great big solar panel place, someplace where it's cost effective, it doesn't impact so many people, and you can make it as big as you want. Because I think, this is trying, like I said, to me it's all philosophical, because you're trying to get something done that could probably be done almost any place else for the same amount of money or better, and you could have the option then of making it as big as you want in 5 years or 10 years, and you don't bug us with whacking down stuff, and we don't have to have Wausau as our neighbor on Bugbee any more than we do right now. I'm just kidding.
So I can't speak.
No, I'm just saying
city.
that's a good thing, isn't it?
Well, I'll speak to one point of this. I'm not an elected official, I'm a consulting engineer. But what I will tell you about this location is that it's adjacent to a large user of electricity. That's what makes this property more appealing than other. There's infrastructure to be built if you build this array and have to, so to speak, send the electricity, again, that's not a very technical term, to another location.
It's all over out west. You go, they've got big energy plants in the middle of nowhere. Wire's cheap, and they make it work. So I understand they might have told you that, but I'm just saying from my personal experience, you go out west and there's, Minnesota's covered with
That's true.
towers, and they somehow get stuff from the middle of nowhere to Rochester.
You can do it, there's just a cost associated with it.
But it would be a lot cheaper to put the great big park someplace where that would work rather than this little half job that doesn't even power the plant. I understand what you're saying, but maybe you could power half the city later on and just have a great big farm someplace. Just thinking.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Is there, so it sounds like a lot of the consensus is that we like the trees off of Bugbee Avenue there. Is there a thought on possibly downsizing the array? Because also, I'm guessing that one of the peak times for the plant is going to be in the morning when there's not much sunlight. So is there possibly something where you could do a smaller array and leave the trees there?
I think the concern with the trees and the height of them is the shading, at different times of the day. So, but yeah, we have talked about downsizing the array as well. Just kind of trying to zero in on those capital costs, obviously, there's economies of scale too, right? So trying to figure out what that is. But yeah, if we downsize it, you're absolutely right. We would have more space for landscaping around. We could do different things on the property as well.
Have they addressed any windmills or anything to supplement overnight?
The city, the utility has not looked at wind generation, no.
Because that would fill in the void in for evening thing.
Right, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's another option that would run possibly 24/7, but we haven't looked at that at all, nope.
You have the option of so much farmland, buy an old ginseng farm, and put up all the panels you want.
Well, we're trying to do something
The last
close to
man
the
is
city
what?
limits within, the purview of the utility. Yep,
I know, but it just is an eyesore. You guys are not good neighbors.
yep. Yep.
I hope if you cut down trees, you have somebody cut down that makes use of them and then you just don't garbage. stuff. You have somebody cut down the trees that can use them.
Yes, sir.
How about all the wildlife around that area?
Yeah.
They're just done,
There's a lot of space there. I mean, on this particular property, there's not gonna be like excessive trucking, there's not gonna be excessive use. I mean, it's very quiet and just being
huh? Well, it's
open
gonna be all
air.
fenced in.
It will be, yeah. Wildlife will have to move around it, yes.
We're gonna have a deer in our yard.
Yeah.
That's happening already.
Yes.
You had mentioned earlier about the possibility in the future of having to purchase carbon offsets. Is that what we're seeing across the country? Like municipalities have to purchase carbon offsets?
I think it would basically be for almost everybody. WPS is talking about it now. They don't have any commitments to it. They don't, you know, they're regulated by the Public Service Commission as well. It's just something that has come up recently. But, I mean, it could be 5 years out, it could be 20. I have no idea. Or
What
not.
is this you're talking about? Carbon offset.
Who makes the final decision on this and when?
The Utility Commission will make the final decision on this. Right now, staff's working with Clark Dietz to kind of zero in to see the viability economically, what it is. Right now, we're getting feedback from the neighborhood to present to them as well. So if this does move forward, you know, what else needs to happen that will make it palatable for the area. If it doesn't economically, if it doesn't play out, they'll have to make a decision.
So basically, we have no say in this.
This is your public comment period, and you can come and talk.
We can comment on it all we want, but actually, we will not have a decision whether or not those panels are.
Yeah, your public comments will be provided to the commission, and they'll take those into account when they make your final decision.
What is the timeline for those decisions?
So right now, I'm hoping to have, bring back some numbers to the Utility Commission for them to consider at the beginning of October. And then hopefully have a final decision in November at their commission meeting, which is the first Tuesday of every month.
So how can we make their voice stronger?
Well, all of these comments are being recorded, and so we'll bring them to the commission.
No, but it doesn't-
John Robinson behind you is on the commission as well, so he'll help.
So can we meet with him? Because we don't want to talk in the ear here.
I would recommend that you actually come to the commission meeting.
So bring a bunch of our friends or what?
Absolutely.
Because, you know, it doesn't help to just have a few people.
Yeah. Yes.
We haven't made a decision yet, and I think, Eric, one of the reasons is, you know, as one of the commissioners, I'm concerned about going into nature-wise and actually increasing our cost of electricity. And I think a number of the other commissioners are, given the fact that we've got significant cost increases that we're going to be passing on because the new wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant. We have not made our mind up. We're continuing to explore whether we build it ourselves, whether we work with WPS or we don't build it. So those are the options. We're still evaluating them. We're waiting for better pro formas to better understand what the costs are. But I think we're trying to look at both short-term and long-term implications. So we have not made a decision, and there will be opportunities, I think, also for the zoning of that property that will go to the full city council in addition to what the utility is looking at. But we're struggling with it because of that cost-benefit analysis, and that we've kind of put it on hold and trying to get more information before we make that decision. So we haven't made the decision. Once we make the decision, we still have to go through the zoning. We'll hear, you know, I heard a lot of different comments relative to aesthetics. Those all get weighed in at that time.
Yeah. But if you've just heard the cost benefit from my conversation, you've listened, because I haven't talked about that at all. There's most of us out here, I think, are more concerned about what's going to happen. And there's always this benefit of scale. And to have this little, you know, energy thing put up is gonna cost probably 2/3 as much as something nicer or bigger or faster or better, either later on or out in the country. Do you have any cities you went to that saw these things in the middle of their city or not? Where can we go see energy grid like this in the city?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them down on the south end of the
Stevens
state.
Point?
There's a lot of them down on the south end of the state.
Main cities.
What's that?
Madison has a huge one.
Who?
Madison, Wisconsin, if you.
Right in the middle of the city? I went to school out there.
Right, town, right by the airport.
Okay,
Towards the
yeah,
airport.
that's an industrial thing, that's a whole different thing. We're talking about, our houses are right there.
Well, it's not, there's houses.
I'm
not
from
that
the
far
other
from
matters
there.
that went to school there. I'm just saying, that whole area is, you got an airport, it seems like a good place for a grid to put it. But you have houses with trees and beautiful nature stuff, and trying to make the neighborhood prettier, and paying a lot of taxes to live there, like $10,000 a year to live there, and then not be heard is kind of a bummer. I don't care about the cost. That's something I'm not smart enough to figure out. I'm just trying to figure out what do we do about, building something pretty a micro thing. Make one that powers the whole darn plant and buy some land in the country or put it by the airport.
And also circumstances are a whole lot different than Madison's. So maybe we're just spinning our wheels here. This should be gone over with a fine-tooth comb. And, when you have time, which we're not pinning you down, have solid facts and figures.
Yeah, we will have another public information meeting, like I said, in 4 to 6 weeks. hopefully.
Because as right now, I don't know. I have mixed emotions.
Yeah, I understand that.
I have a question about, is there any sound associated with this? I mean, is there any high-pitched buzzing, any kind of mechanical sound at all when they are functional? No. Nothing. Zero.
I mean, there'll be probably a transformer associated with it, but that would be towards the middle of the array. I don't think you hear anything on the streets.
Even when the arrays are moving?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any lighting associated with it? Any?
There can be, there isn't right now. We don't have anything, presented that would be more part of the landscaping plan. That would be, again, feedback from the, do you want lights? Do we need lights? So.
I don't know, do you?
Do you?
I don't want 24/7 lights.
No, and I don't think that's what it would be unless the neighborhood wanted some additional lighting, but otherwise it would just be lights available for, late night maintenance or something, so, yeah.
So we need to notice of what we can do with the next meeting, okay? I appreciate what you did here.
Yeah, so I'll definitely send out notices for the next meeting. We'll have some more detailed information. Clark Dietz continues to work on the design. Again, this is a step process. No decisions have been made yet, but there's been a lot of questions coming in too about it. So, yeah.
What about security? Will there be added security and such, like along Tierney Road where it's so close, it's 25 feet to right where those panels are? There's a lot of stuff that goes on Tierney Road. That house was broken in a couple of months ago. A car that was in a wreck was abandoned on the road a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And that's just what's happened recently.
Okay. I mean, there could be, we could incorporate things with that. Like I said, maybe some small lighting, maybe if there's other ideas that you have that might help with security, could be incorporated as well. Yeah.
I am concerned about the removal of trees, because again, we've lived there long enough that our lot line, our driveway was the end of Tierney Road, and it was all wooded beyond that. And over the course of about 2 years, they just out all the trees, we never were asked whether they like trees down. We used to have a 25-foot buffer between Kearney Road and that space, and it just was gone one day. So that's what bothers me, these folks on
Trees, yeah.
Bugbee are starting to feel now, but it's happened already in Kearney.
Yeah, it seems that they did that.
Yeah.
So could we get a residential group to work with you guys if we had a few of these people that are interested in front of a panel to come and help you with that?
Yep, happy to set that up and work with anybody who's willing to.
We'll organize a
provide
protest. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not good.
I think that might be a good discussion to move forward with after our next public information meeting. You know, maybe get some interest from some people that want to be a part of that. Get some of that feedback too before we go back to the commission on some ideas. Yep.
I received a letter, was there any other information on this out that people knew about it that didn't receive a letter? Because I received a letter in the mail, but I didn't see anything published anywhere else.
We did some social media outreach for the general public and, you know, just like we typically would do, we sent out a wide range into the area here. You know, notice it's similar to what we did with the drinking water facility to get feedback. So, and we'll do the same thing for the next information meeting as well. Because there were some people that had contacted me and said they weren't able to make it, so. Thanks everyone for coming.